In the long run, it was the greatest blessing to me that I ever could have asked for. I'm putting on makeup so I don't cry. I'm not going to do this. Like, this is the final chapter, essentially. Hi, everyone. A very happy new year to all of you. It is January 5th, but still a very happy new year. And I wish all of you nothing but the best for this upcoming year. I want to start off by immediately saying I put it in the title because I didn't want anyone thinking, oh, I'm leaving YouTube. No, I'm not. I like doing this. It is fun. I wish I had more time to do more of what I want to do. This is not a dramatic video, but it's something that I wanted to sit down and talk about because, again, the reason I share like so many crazy, no, it's not crazy things, but I share a lot of things with you guys is because I know that other people may be going through the same thing, and sometimes I feel like I can relate to what you tell me and you guys can relate to what I'm saying. Maybe, hopefully. I have quite a few new products to try, some that I got in my boxes, but the ones that I want to play with today mostly are ones that were gifted to me, which I am so incredibly grateful for. I honestly don't think I'm worthy of the things that people do, and I often say don't send me anything, but it just means so much to me. Even if you sent me a card with a kitten on it, I would be incredibly grateful. It's just the fact of people think of me in that way to want to do something for me is just amazing. So honestly, I have just not much skincare on. It's like 4 o'clock. I have been busting my butt, which is the things that I want to actually, some of what I want to talk about. But I even have just Aquaphor underneath my eyes. I'm not even going to use primer. The only products I'm really going to be talking about are the new ones that were gifted to me. But just in case, I am using the About Face foundation. It's called the Performer, and it's an L2 neutral. There's quite a bit of it. See, it's a bit light, but I make it work because it's not a full coverage foundation. People get way mad when they think you are clickbaiting them, and I didn't want anybody to think that either, so that's why I was very cautious in my title. But the end does mean something to me. So we had actually 2 weeks, I said that backwards, 2 weeks off for Christmas break from school, which hasn't happened in about 6 years or so, maybe even longer. I haven't kept track. Depending upon when Christmas falls is how they determine, how much time you get off. And I think last year or the year before, we only got a week. Now, I'm not taking that for granted because most people don't get that kind of vacation. It's just we all look forward to that amazing break. For a lot of people, they're able to actually take a vacation and they don't have to rush. And I know a lot of my colleagues actually did that. The funny thing is I've been letting all of my creator friends, as I'm doing what I've been doing, I've been letting their videos play in the background. Some of them I'm rewatching, some of them I'm listening to for the first time. So even if I haven't commented or been able to comment, please know that I'm actually listening and enjoying them. So what does the end mean? A quick recap of my life over the past few years. I know I don't have anybody new, but maybe somebody might have forgotten everything. Okay, let's put it this way. Everybody I love died. Now, I have lived in the Bronx for most of my life, 50 years essentially. I was married, so I lived out of the house. I also lived on my own for several years after I got divorced, but then 10 years ago, well, now it's a little bit longer. I've been out of the house for, goodness, I think it's 3 years now, because I'm actually coming up on my 1-year anniversary of being here, which again, I thought things would change, but they're the same. But I'm really happy here. Like, this is a place that I'm super happy. Nothing's ever going to feel like home again to me, but I love being here. So when I moved back to my house in the Bronx, I went back to my old room that I grew up in, and I had the same furniture that I had when I grew up, and it was, nostalgic. Sometimes I longed for my autonomy again, but I had the chance at 40 to be able to reconnect with my parents on such a different level, and it was tough sometimes, but it was amazing for most of the time. People are always going to argue and not get along, but in the long run, it was the greatest blessing to me that I ever could have asked for. I lost one of my sisters back in 2003, and she was my best friend. We were the closest in age of the rest of my siblings. She was only 36 when she died, and that's just not fair. My other sister that I lost, she met the love of her life at 57. And if I have some of the pictures, I will put them up if I can find them. That's a whole nother thing, which is going to be part of, the story that I'm going to be telling. This is the Yensa BC Concealer, and it's in light neutral. As you can see, I've gotten hit in the head, not by a person, by things. Right after they got married, her husband was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and my sister was so worried about him that she ignored a lot of things that were going on with her. And while he was going to make it, all of a sudden she had a major problem. She had double vision, and she was so concerned that it was going to be like my other sister. And I tried to assure her that everything was fine. And it turned out that she had lung cancer, which had metastasized all over her body, and she fought it for a year and really wanted to survive, and she didn't, and she died in August of 2019. For my parents, it was devastating to lose a second daughter. No parent should ever bury their child. And again, I was living there, and we all helped each other through it in our own way. It was all devastating for each other, but in different ways, if that makes sense. Just playing with some products that I'm trying to go through, see if I love, if I don't love, and I want to pass on. This is from Besame. It says they're brightening vanilla powder, translucent. I mean, I already have too light, but we're going to go with it, because it's getting taken off rather soon. For translucent, it looks very yellow. It wouldn't be a video if I didn't do that, and it wouldn't be a video if the powder didn't go into my coffee as well. Not the component, but the powder. You expect nothing less. Remember the date of August of 2019. Who'd have thought that just a few short months later, it would be the worst time in many of our lives? I didn't handle my sister's death, my second sister's death, extremely well. Even though I said we tried to help each other through it, my parents were grieving in a different way, and I became very angry, and I kind of fell apart. I let a lot of things slide. I feel like I'm a little crooked, but I feel like if I try to adjust the camera, it's going to go very badly. My beautiful friend Clara Barrera from Beauty's Ageless 55 sent me a gift, and one of them is the Kosas Flush is Life Trio. I don't think I've tried these. Look how beautiful they look. I have Euphoria. They're modeled. They look a lot like the Hourglass blushes. Some of them anyway. This is Blissed. And this is Butterflies. Ooh, look how pretty. It's like a pink. Butterflies, Euphoria, and Blessed. I think I want to use Euphoria. It's a little bit darker. So anyway, let's just skip forward to February to March of 2020. We all know what happened, and unfortunately my mom did have COPD and heart disease, but she and my father would go out every day. If it wasn't for COVID, she wouldn't have died when she did. And this has nothing to do with my story. But if I heard one more person say, oh, she died because she was sick and, that's okay. It was those people who didn't believe in COVID. And you want to talk about making me angry, but I'm not going to go there. Anyway, trying to deal with the death of my mother, still processing the death of my sister. Now we're locked down. Now I'm left with my father, who completely just fell apart. And, of course, I had the biggest struggle in my life. I said it was going to be a quick recap, but obviously that wasn't a quick recap. I didn't initially know how long I was going to live with my parents. I got that chance to enjoy those years with them, and they meant so, so much to me. So now suddenly I'm alone with my dad and trying to keep him safe and trying to work from home and trying to deal with everything, and I forgot to put bronzer on, so we're gonna make this work. I want to use the Too Faced Bare It All bronzer. I'm just going to put it over, under, or redo the blush if I have to. I didn't know how to deal with suddenly being thrust into such a different world and knowing that it didn't have to happen the way it did. So my dad declined rather quickly, and a year and a half later, my dad died. And I had caught COVID at that point. So I couldn't even go to the hospital when my dad got sick and they had to take him in an ambulance. When I lost my sister, I drove my mom and dad to the wake, to the funeral home, and came home. When I lost my mom, I drove my dad to the wake, to the funeral, and then home. And it felt less. It felt less. When I lost my dad, I'm putting on makeup so I don't cry. I'm not going to do this. By the way, these Kosas blushes are gorgeous. Thank you, Clara. I love them. I can't wait to wear them to work. She also gifted me the Tarte Cravings palette that looks like a box of candy. Look at the swirls. It's adorable. I've always said that I love Tarte packaging so much. It does come with a mirror. I did not take the thing off yet, but look how cute the swirls and the squares, what they look like chocolate. So I drove myself to the wake. It was weird walking in by myself, and going home that first night alone was absolutely, I hate to say terrifying, but it was just the worst feeling that I can express. And then going to the funeral and then coming home, I didn't know what to do. It felt so bizarre. And then having to go to work and getting up in the morning and not being able, oh, I can't cry. Not going to do it. Okay, had to bite my tongue. Not saying goodbye to my mom in the morning and my dad. It's so difficult. I remember being a little afraid, which I never was in the Bronx, but suddenly every noise, every gunshot I heard, I know that sounds bizarre, but it's the truth. Everything I heard on the street, it frightened me. I was afraid to be alone because I hadn't been in 10 years. So then it was the realization of, I can't afford to buy the house because I knew I couldn't buy my siblings out. Had to get sold. That is a whole other ball game of what happened with that. But all of a sudden, I had to think about, oh my goodness, I have to leave this house. Almost 60 years of that house. I remember that house was in my family for over 100 years because it was my grandfather's, then it was my uncle's, and then my parents bought it. Talking almost 60 years worth of stuff in that house. Look how pretty this is and how well it blends. But when my dad died, I tried going through the stuff. It was very difficult emotionally, very difficult physically because I didn't have any help. I had a couple of friends help me, but as far as going through the stuff, I was doing it alone. And I had just a couple of months to get out of the house. And I had a storage unit that I would bring stuff over bit by bit. But again, I'm one person. Now, not to mention, when my dad died, all of a sudden, my MS kicked into high gear. I couldn't feel my feet. I was walking with a cane, and I'm trying to do all this by myself. I didn't know how much time I had, but my dad died in May, and I moved out of the house. My first month was in September. I had let things go, and I had the most crappy credit score. In order to get an apartment, you have to have a very good credit score. So finding an apartment was a veritable nightmare. Finally, I did, and it's only because I had letters of recommendation. So I could barely take the things that I needed to live, but I couldn't even take all of my stuff when I first moved. I mean, so needless to say, there was a lot to do. And the evil witch of a landlord, which I won't even get into either. That is a whole nother video. Not only was I trying to get my apartment set up, every weekend I had to go back to my house, A, to check on it, B, to always sweep up because the people in my neighborhood were absolute pigs and people would throw their garbage. And of course, we, the homeowners, would get the ticket if we didn't clean it up. So I'd go back every week, clean up, go into the house, try to figure out what I'm going to be donating, what I'm going to keep and take with me. And then remember one thing, well, not remember, but my storage unit was only so big and it had stuff in there already. So again, alone. I was going back and forth, filling up my car. Granted, it's an SUV, but again, by myself. Going over to the storage unit, emptying it, loading it in, and if I had the energy, I would go back for one more trip, but sometimes it wasn't possible. So I had boxes all over the place. I was packing stuff up, had to buy all the bubble wrap myself, and the garbage bags and the cleaning stuff because I didn't know what was going to happen with my house. I'm going to take the lightest color. Maybe I should do it the other way, but I don't care. So I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to empty out that whole house. It would have taken me a year by myself going there every single weekend. As it was, I was going there every single weekend, and it felt like I wasn't making a dent at all because I wasn't just going to just walk away from everything. I had to go through every nook and cranny and see what was there so I could make a choice, because so many things were not my choice. I needed to be able to feel comfortable and confident that I was making choices. I felt like I wasn't even making progress because I'd pack up the donate boxes and then I'd pack the stuff I was going to keep. And as I said, going back and forth, it was a lot. And then all of a sudden, while I'm doing that, that now it was the winter, the power is still on. I would leave the water dripping, but because I didn't want everything to freeze, and then it worried me because I wasn't there all the time. I'm going to put this bronzy one on with my finger. These are so creamy. Look at that. I'm going to use this. Do I use the gold? You know, I'll use this super sparkly one here. And just like put it on top. We had like zero, no, you wouldn't remember. Unless you're in New York, you wouldn't remember. We had like 0-degree weather for quite a bit of time. And not only did the pipes freeze, the radiators exploded in every room, and I had gone back to the house, and when I went in, the lights were off, which I always left lights on to, make people think that somebody was still living there, So when I walked into the house, there was water pouring from the ceiling, and all of that work that I had done, packing everything up, saving the things I wanted to save, almost all of it was undone in that matter of time. And let me tell you, I can't explain the devastation I felt at that moment, because a lot of things that I wanted to take that I couldn't do all at once was ruined. I saved what I could. Now the storage unit's getting filled up more and filled up more and filled up more. Did I say it's getting filled up more? Look at just how pretty this is. I think the gold in the middle just made it stand out so prettily. Now it's a matter of not packing stuff up for what's going to be donated. Now it's going through and saving what I can from the house. So that was a whole lot of other time. The basement was so many things in the basement. I knew I could save some stuff, but so much of it was ruined and I couldn't even get down there for a while because of the amount of water. I want to get some use out of this Danessa Myricks palette that I got last year in my Beautylish Lucky bag. I have the time to play. The scent still nauseates me tremendously. Again, I was taking my time because I didn't know how much time I had. To me, it was such an emotional process, not only physically demanding on my body, but it was an emotional strain on me as well, as you might be able to imagine. The only stuff that didn't get damaged was the attic because of the way the attic was situated. While I'm in that process, all of a sudden, I am told that I have 5 days to get out of my house. And at that point, I think my heart leapt out of my chest, and I went into complete and utter panic mode. 5 days to try to go through and gather all of the things that I needed to save. I couldn't decide, so what did I do? I just started grabbing everything I could find. The non-breakable stuff, I just started throwing it in boxes. I don't even know what it was. The breakable stuff that I wanted to take, it took me more time, which is frustrating because I didn't have a lot of time. I actually had to take off several days from work, and the panic mode set in. Now, I had spent every penny I had and with moving expenses, having to buy all of the things to move, having to move my piano, which I'm sorry, I will not give it up. I can't. That cost me $1,000. I had nothing left. Now all of a sudden, I'm like, how do I do this? How do I get this stuff out of here quickly? And I said, physically able to do it. The last day of me having to leave the house and say goodbye to it forever, I was sitting there making the decisions, looking at things in my hand. There wasn't room in my car for anything. I couldn't fit a mouse in my car. My other amazing friend, Pamela, she has a channel that I'm going to link down below, and she needs to start making videos again. She also sent me this beautiful set from Clinique, and it came with one of my favorite liners, which is the Quickliner. I didn't save as much anywhere near of what I want to. I wish I had the choice of going through and personally making this decision of what I was going to keep and what I was not going to keep, but that was taken away from me. So now my storage unit, when I say that storage unit, which was a 10 by 10, I mean, there could have been a body in there and I would not have even known it. But I had wanted my mom's bedroom set. There were so many things. The things that I know I saved was, I'd say, most of the pictures that I could find. There was probably some other stuff in the attic that, who knows. So now I have to figure out the storage unit. Luckily, God bless my nephew and his ex-wife, whom I both adore. They don't live near me. Helped me with that storage unit. I got rid of so much stuff that I didn't want to. I had to make very, very quick decisions. So again, a virtual nightmare for me. So now I moved into a smaller unit, a 5 by 8 unit. But eventually I knew that I would have to go through it again and make tough decisions again. So having the 2 weeks off, these were my plans. I had planned on doing my eyeshadow declutter. I had planned on doing a ton of filming so that I could get some up for December and then spread them out so I'd have some things filmed. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and mainly because the storage unit, they raised the price. Again, I'm like, I can't do this. I do not have the money to keep spending every single month. It is an absurdity. So almost every single day that I had off, I went back and forth to the storage unit. Now I had to get it done by the end of the month because I didn't want to pay another month for January, especially since they had raised it. So I knew I had a certain amount of time. I had no idea how many trips it was going to take me. I am way far from the Bronx. My car's still not running right. I still haven't gotten the wheel hub assembly, nor have I fixed my oil leak. So I try to drive my car as little as possible. Methinks I want to use the pink highlighter from the One Size. I just think it's really pretty. Anyway, for the third time, as I was trying to explain, I would go, the first few days I went down and tried to go through the stuff so I didn't have to just take it all here. This isn't as sparkly, pretty highlighter as, I mean, it looks okay here. I don't know. Do I want something else? I want to actually use a liquid highlighter, which I haven't done in a while, and I probably have the ones to use. But this is what I grabbed. This is the Saint Lux. It's a little dark, but I like that it has this little doe foot applicator, and I really think it's pretty. Just 3 little dots. And I'll just use a beauty blender. Oh, okay, you have to blend this out rather quickly. Good thing I tried really quickly. So I spent most of the first few days at the storage unit just going through it again, so I didn't have to spend too much time here having to sort. That didn't work out as planned. I really want to try this Lawless mascara. I also really want to use my Milk Makeup primer, but let's do the Lawless mascara by itself in, well, it's obviously black. It's called Nightlife, just so you guys can see how it looks. Love the packaging. It's so cute. Did I try this? It's in the box. I don't think I tried this. Would I be able to I don't know. Anyway, as I was saying, most of the time that I spent the first few days there was trying to go through and get rid of. Now, they don't have a dumpster there, so I would have to take that with me and dump it when I came home. Let's just play with this. I love the sticky, stabby plastic bristles. Let me just hold this up. Look how like spiky it is. I obviously didn't do anything on Christmas and Christmas Day. I stayed home for both of those days. I had doctor's appointments, so I couldn't go those days. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap. 2 weeks goes really quickly when you have a lot of stuff to do. And thank goodness on one trip, 2 guys from work actually came and helped me, which I am eternally grateful for. They were able to get the tall stuff down for me, and they loaded the heavy stuff into my car. Of course, I had to get it out myself when I came home, and that was an experience. So that first day I loaded up the car, what I didn't realize is it would take me 4 more trips back and forth, but by myself, stuffing my car full because I no longer had the time to sit there in the unit and go through everything. First, get it out, load it onto the cart, and the cart was only so big, so usually it took at least 2 to 3 trips back and forth to be able to fill up my car. Getting the stuff out of the car, I would half drop it. I mean, look at my hands. I am cut up, banged up. I said a couple of times things fell from up above, hit me in the head. That was fun. I still have stuff in my car. Haven't been able to fit it because all the time that I've been here, I've been going through now all of this stuff, and I have thrown out 3 full boxes of recyclable stuff, and I have 2 full bags of donate plus a box of donate stuff. But physically, mentally exhausting. So there was really no relaxing on this vacation. But you know what? I'm really glad and blessed that I had the time off to be able to get it done. Because finally, on New Year's Eve, I made my last trip down there. And that's when I had to really, I couldn't see out of the back of my car. My lips need a little bit of moisture. I'm going to use one of my favorites, the City Lips. Just the clear one is fantastic. So my storage unit was in a different building than the main unit because that's all they had. I had no reason to go down to the Bronx except for that storage unit because my sister lived in the Bronx. She was gone. Her husband died 2 weeks. He survived like 1.5 years. No, 2 years, because he died 2 weeks after my father died. Now it comes back on. It's possessed, I tell you. When I walked into the office, the guys have always been wonderful. Clara also sent me 2 of the Tarte maracuja, yes, the juicy lipsticks. I have mine in, she knows what colors I love, Orchid and Hibiscus. I'm going to swatch them for you. I love the names. This is Orchid. I told him that I was going to be closing out the unit, and he goes, oh wow, you've had it for a long time. And like tears just like welled up in my eyes, and I realized that was my last connection to the Bronx. I haven't been able to go back and pass by the house. I absolutely cannot do it. This one is Hibiscus. Oh, they're so pretty. This one's a little bit darker and a little bit pinkier. I think I'm going to use this one. Now, the initial storage unit was in my dad's name, and I was on it, so I needed to bring my dad's death certificate with me to close it out completely. That was like another level of hard as well. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to blot it so that's a little bit more sheer where I don't need a lip liner. Oh, and this mascara just flaked. Ooh. If you guys have tried the Lawless mascara, does it flake on you? So I no longer have any connection to the Bronx. And when I signed that paper closing it out, it brought up so many emotions. 50 years of my life has been spent there. 50 years of my life, and I don't have the family left. Everyone I knew and loved from the Bronx is gone. By the way, this is my finished look, and I really like it. So I came home, I fed the cats, I relaxed on the couch, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay up, ring the new year in. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. I tried and tried, and then I was probably asleep by 8:30 and woke up on New Year's Day. The last few days, I have been going through all of the things that I brought here. 5 trips of a stuffed SUV of things. I had no idea. And I still have not made a dent. So that's a long and drawn out story. And what it was meant to do was to share with you that I understand the emotional and mental things that can take a toll on you. And I can't let them, and I don't want them to let you overwhelm you, become an obsession in your life. I know I'm kind of not making too much sense at this point, but the most important thing is if you've gone through this, I can tell you that not only do I sympathize, but I empathize. And maybe some of you can empathize with some of the traumatic things that I've had to go through, and yet I'm still here and I'm talking about it, which means it didn't defeat me. And that's big for me because it's so easy. It would have been so easy for everything to defeat me. And when I say the end, it's the end of that part of my life completely. And now I have to figure out what the next chapter is. I've gone through several chapters, and now this is the final chapter. So I want to thank you for going through this with me. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Pamela. They created this space for me. But thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this with me. But I love you guys. I will link everything below. Hopefully, those are going to be magic links if I can find them. I think that's it. Love you guys. Bye.